Earning $1 trillion a day. Synopsis. After his ex-girlfriend cheated on him with a rich young heir, Charles Duncan suddenly awakens a system that completely trivializes money. How is he supposed to spend $1 trillion every day? Chapter 1. Mandy, I was just looking for you. This is the Casio watch I bought for you. Why don't you try it on? At the entrance of Jonestown Hotel, Charles Duncan held the gift with both hands and looked eagerly at his girlfriend. Mandy Faust was wearing a pleated dress that showed off her graceful figure and fair skin. Last week, when Mandy suddenly broke up with him, Charles thought that she was just throwing a tantrum again. Naturally. He could not bear to break up with her after they spent 2 years in a relationship. He had worked hard and saved up for more than a month to afford this $2,000 watch. He just wanted to make his girlfriend happy. How could you ask me to wear something so cheap? Mandy glanced at the cheap watch and waved her wrist to show off. See this? This watch is called Platinum Time, from Patek Philippe's latest series. It's worth more than $1 million. This suits me better. The diamonds on the dial made Charles dizzy. He asked, confused. But where did you get so much money? Mandy and he were both students at Jonestown University, and they came from ordinary families. When did she become so rich? Peter gave it to me, of course. Mandy touched the watch on her wrist proudly. She turned to look at Charles and warned him coldly, "Don't bother me anymore, you hear? We're in completely different classes now." Charles was stunned, standing rooted to the ground. Mandy. What do you mean by that? Mandy glared at Charles and said coldly. I'm Peter Walker's girlfriend now. I'm going to marry into a rich family, live in a villa, and drive a sports car. From now on, I'll have nothing to do with you. But I'm your boyfriend, aren't I? Mandy snapped, I already broke up with you last week. Are you deaf? Or are you out of your mind? Charles was dumbfounded. Mandy broke up with him every other day, but she had stopped contacting him completely after the last time. He thought that he just needed to bring her gifts as usual. He never expected her to have found someone already. Charles shook his head fervently. He grabbed Mandy's shoulders and said earnestly, Mandy, don't let Peter fool you. He has countless girlfriends all across the university. Remember Phoebe from the School of Arts? Peter knocked her up and then dumped her, leaving her depressed enough to commit suicide. Peter just wants your body. He would never marry you. Mandy shook Charles off and said angrily, so what if it's all just an act? At least I can get money when I'm with him. What can I get by being with you? All you can give me is an endless mortgage and a meager salary. You can't even satisfy me with luxury goods like Givenchy or Chanel, let alone buy me Ferraris or villas. Charles could not understand why Mandy had become like this. She was always a little vain. But now she was just a gold digger. I understand that you like money and luxury goods, but you can't jump headlong into a trap like that. That's enough. Mandy roared at him, I'll be trapped if I stay with you. I'll be trapped with nothing. Now. Get out of here before Master Walker gets the wrong idea. Only then did Charles notice that Mandy had just walked out of a hotel. It was a heavy blow to his heart. He did not dare to imagine what Mandy had just done in the hotel. Just then, the hotel doors opened. Peter Walker walked out in a branded suit, his hair combed back. When he saw Charles, she smiled and said, well, if it isn't Charles Duncan. Master Walker. Mandy walked over and snuggled in Peter's embrace. Charles looked at the two of them, his eyes turning red. He subconsciously clenched his fists. He had been in a relationship with Mandy for 2 years, yet Mandy had rarely given him the time of day. She barely even smiled at him. They only went as far as holding hands. Heck, they never even kissed. Yet here she was, fawning like a lamb in front of Peter. It had barely been a few days, but they had already slept together. Once a woman's heart was lost, there was no getting it back. Charles knew that his relationship with Mandy would never be the same again. "Charles. What are you holding there?" Peter asked with a frown. Mandy replied, "I don't know where he got it from, but he kept pestering me, saying he wanted to give it to me." "How annoying." Peter mocked, "A Casio? You're giving her trash that isn't even worth $100,000? Charles gritted his teeth and glared at him. This watch was already considered a luxury to him, but in Peter's eyes, it was nothing. "Master Walker, let's not waste our time with this guy. Didn't you say that there's a cocktail party later? There will be many rich young heirs there. Let's go now, before we're late." Mandy clung onto Peter's arm. She behaved as though she was already his wife, desperate as she was to join the upper-class society. Peter could not care less, though. "Wait for me in the car. I'll talk to Charles." Naturally. Mandy did not dare to disobey Peter's orders. Before she left, she threw Charles a fierce glare, as if warning him. Peter lit a cigarette and said casually, "You're more useless than I thought, Charles. You dated Mandy for 2 years, and yet she was still a virgin. TSK. I have to say, her figure is really not bad. She's completely different from when she's in school." Huh. Charles's fingernails were about to dig into his flesh. Even though he felt extremely humiliated, his expression did not change as he said, "She's just a gold-digger." "That means she's a perfect match for you." "Well, I like gold-diggers like her. I'm rich. After all." Peter laughed out loud and got into his Ferrari. Patting the car door, he said mockingly, "Charles, you can come run errands at this hotel if you need a job. My family owns the place, so I'll give you a little bonus once you start working here. Maybe that way, you can buy a Ferrari soon." Mandy, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, hid her smirk behind her hand. "Master Walker. He won't be able to afford a Ferrari even if he works for the rest of his life." "Oh, I was just talking about a single Ferrari tire." Ha ha ha. The two of them laughed viciously and sped away in their race car. Charles watched the Ferrari drive away helplessly. He collapsed to the ground, having given up every last shred of hope he had for this world. All roads led to Rome, but some people were born directly there. No matter how hard he worked, he could not surpass the wealth of the Walkers. What was love? In front of true wealth. It was nothing. Ding. Activating the money trivializing system. Suddenly, a voice flashed in Charles's mind. A screen of light appeared in front of him. Host, Charles Duncan. Strength, 70. Intelligence, 101. Vitality, 80. Willpower, 88. The human average is 100. Sincerity, 0. The next second, the voice sounded in his mind. The system provides $10 trillion every day, refreshing at dawn. Trivializing money to buy true love. Spend money on the people who deserve it. And you may exchange their sincerity for skills. If you spend money on those who have ulterior motives, you will lose 10 attribute points. Transferring money to your own or another person's account does not reward sincerity. The host can be rewarded with 1 attribute point for every $100 million spent. Money is just a number. No, money is as worthless as dirt. Clean up your house as soon as you can, dear host.